Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another DC Worlds Collide video. I hope you're having a good day, morning, afternoon, wherever it's at that it's happening for you. I hope it's going really well. We had a patch pop into the game, 15.2. I'll go over the patch. We'll go over Nubia's Kit here that is also in the game. And we'll read over this real quick and see what that does. And we'll just take a look at it and see what it's looking like. And then you guys can let me know in the comments, hopefully, whether it's a pass or whether or not something you're going to a character you're going to pull for. So season 9 begins with Nubia, and she's now visible in the character files, and she pops off this Thursday. So it looks like in Elseworld they've added Joker, Hugo, and Punchline, so that's pretty cool. Hero boxes added Joker. Firestorm and Killer Frost added to the Epic. We knew that. League recruitment looks like Peacemaker season is out with Aquaman, and they're adding Joker, Hugo, and Punchline. And then other legendary and epic mother boxes have added Season 8 Joker, Firestorm and Killer Frost have also been added. Desired list, we knew that already. They had the early goof with Killer Frost and Firestorm being in there already. Team ups, they said they removed Peacemaker, Vigilante, and Judo Master and added the Joker season, but I don't believe, at least not in mine, I don't see where they've done that yet. I'm still rocking that crew there. So these guys should disappear and you should get bonuses for the Joker crew. And then other boxes we already knew about that. And as you can see, the Joker's there, ready to do his thing in the League recruitment. So pretty cool stuff there, getting you some advancements. Let's go ahead and do a friend request. Alright, so the other one was, let's read it here. Nubia is a legendary tank hero who anchors the Amazonian season with a powerful defensive playstyle built to dominate the late game. And we'll see that in her kit here in a minute. From the front row, she protects her allies, strengthens her team's survivability, and grows more threatening as the battle drags on. The season also introduces Redirect, a new buff that can turn incoming debuff attacks back on the attacker, making reckless aggression much riskier against Amazonian teams. So that should be interesting. Is this, again, we're seeing an anti-debuff thing here. So we're thinking block team, with Ocean Master doing all that bleed. Of course, the debuff team, it's got like Zod and Sinestro and all them guys. Poison. How much of that poison are you kicking back at them and stuff like that? So we're keeping that theme kind of from the Joker season of anti-debuffs. Okay, Nubia works especially well along Amazonian allies like Artemis and Yarflor, or to strengthen any other team, helping it survive early pressure before turning the tide with overwhelming mid and late game strength. She excels in defensive teams that want to endure the enemy's opening burst, protect the back row, and punish opponents who try to break through with focused attack. Her badge, Queen of the Amazonians, further enhances her role as the leader of the front line by allowing Nubia and her front row ally to share buffs with one another while rewarding her for turning enemy pressure back on itself. If in the front row, and this will be in her kit, the first 2 times each round that Nubia gains a buff, her front row ally also gains that buff for the same duration. When Nubia redirects an enemy buff, she gains a random buff for 2 turns. 1 stack of strong, attack, sturdy, armor, or frantic, or 2 stacks to recuperate. If in the front row, the first 2 times each round that Nubia's front row ally gains a buff, Nubia also gains that buff for the same duration. You're seeing a theme here of where they want her to be. In addition, we are currently working on expanding Evil Falls with more levels, and that content will be arriving during this season. Oh, here we go. Look at that. We'll share more details soon. We'll also be running Season 9 Fatal Exception starting May 5th. Would you look at that? Extending Evil Falls. Well, hell, I got my Firestorm just in time then. So there you go. Extending Evil Falls, adding a little bit more content. This Fatal Exception. You got to give credit where credit is due. This is definitely an expansion. This is definitely adding a little bit more content to the game, and that's a good thing. Details increased chance of Nubia when she kicks off on Thursday. We already know all this and how that works. So wow, nice surprise here with the expansion of Evil Falls. It's a start. Listen, I'm not going to get on here and say, oh, they need to do this and this. This is a start, and let's see if it picks up from here, you know. But this is nice. So let's get into Nubia's or get into her kit, because it's pretty interesting. Where you at, girl? There she is. All right, so right off the bat, gathers energy into her spear and does a large sweep attack hitting all enemies, so a complete AoE for 160 of her attack is physical damage. Now here's where they talk about where she ramps up as the battle goes on, because at the end of each round, increase the damage of this ability by 10% for the rest of the combat. So at the end of each round, there's 15 rounds. So when you get to 10, she's increased by 100%, you know. And once you get her to level 3, you're increasing by 200%. So as this gets into the later rounds, which Block usually does, you know, she's just hitting harder and harder and harder. So that's pretty interesting. This one says attack the enemy row 3 times for 50, 50, and 75% of attack is physical damage. I don't see anywhere where it says which row, so I'm assuming she's just front row, and then once they're gone, she's doing the back row. And then the damage increases to 65, 65, and 90, and then deals 5% more damage for each type of buff she has. So that's really nice. Okay, and then the commanding presence. At the start of the battle, if in the front row, again, they talked about it in the email, and right here it is. They want her in the front row. Nubia's attack is increased by 15% of her front row allies' attack. Ooh, that's interesting. At the start of the battle, if in the front row, Nubia's attack is increased by 15% of her front row allies' attack. So, you know, you're running an Aquaman or Nightwing up there with her. They don't hit that hard, so that this bonus ain't going to be all that great. But if you run in like a DCU Supes or someone that's got a high attack, well, then she's going to be hitting harder too. That's interesting. At the start of battle, if in the front row, Nubia's front row allies' defense is increased by 15% of Nubia's defense. So she helps her buddy. So if you put a attacker up there, she's going to transfer some of her defense to them to help them out. And then level 3, it jumps up to 30% for each. So that's pretty interesting dynamic there where they make them share, you know, their stats. Very interesting. So should lead to some interesting plays and should lead to some interesting ideas of what's going to come with her Amazonians, you know. We'll have to see when they're all released to see how it looks in the big picture. But, you know, this could be pretty interesting depending on what some of her Amazonian teammates have in their kits. Okay. And her next one is increase Nubia's block chance by 15% and the back row damage resistance by 15%. Okay, so there she is. She's helping her back row. And this is the nice one here. Increase reflect of the back row by 25%. So they're kicking those debuffs back. And if a back row ally is attacked by a single target attack, apply 2 stacks of slow to the enemy for 2 turns. Well, ding, ding, ding. I think we all know who the #1 single attack person is, and this is a direct shot at her. I don't know if it'll make a difference, you know, we'll have to wait and see, but you know, it's her right there. There she is. This is a direct shot at her. Even Guy, you know, Batman of course does single target. DCU Supes, everyone's favorite Lantern Kyle, you know, so this is a direct shot at this crew right here. Well, you can just let me go back to her. I don't know, but so that definitely is going to help the back row, protect them from those back row attacker, you know, those people that attack the back row and skip the front row. You're going to slow them down. You're going to reflect some of their debuffs. I'd like to see that a little bit higher than 25, at least 50, but it is what it is. And then once you level up, she increases their damage resistance by 30%, and she increases her own block up to 35%. So that's really nice there. And then Indomitable, when in the front row, she always has redirect. It can't ever be dispelled. It doesn't stack. She always has it. So very interesting character. Has to be in the front row. I think this is the most interesting thing for me. At the start of the battle in the front row, her attack is increased by 15% of her front row allies' attack. And then she's going to turn around and give some of her defense to her front row ally as well. I think we're going to have to see who the other Amazonians are before we see how much this makes sense and how we use that, but it's definitely a very interesting thing, and I love kind of the interaction. This definitely can get into some theory crafting as well. Obviously, she's not going to be able to use with Mr. T. She's a blue tactical tank. Mr. T's out, um, you know, but depending on what some of her other people look like, you know, some of these front row looks are going to be pretty interesting to see what people come up with, because you know, people are definitely going to be doing some mixing and matching there. It should be really cool to see. So there's her kit. Pretty cool stuff. You know, definitely that scaling as she gets, you know, that 10% increase every round. You know, 3-4 rounds, you're looking at, you know, that's a significant amount of increase. You know, especially when you're starting at 160. You know, so that's really cool. And like I said, I'm really interested in this commanding presence and see how that works. And yeah, there she is. So there we are. We got Nubia popping off Thursday. We got new content coming for Evil Falls and a Fatal Exception. So new content, new season. Wow. Definitely let me know what you think. Did you see this coming? I'm assuming most people are pretty happy, especially with the new content adding something to Evil Falls. Now hopefully they add something that Firestorm can't, you know, destroy right away. And I just got Firestorm, so they better not nerf him. If they nerf him before I had a chance to use him, I'll be unhappy. Alrighty, guys. Well, I'm out of here. I just wanted to let you guys know that her kit's in there and just kind of go over it real quick. And, you know, hey, new content. What can you say? You know, pretty cool stuff. So best of luck to you out there on those mother box pulls. I hope you get as much Nubia as you were wanting to get. And I definitely hope to see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.